Everybody doing okay this morning? All right. Well, listen, have a little compassion on me because this is going to be my first time preaching live in over a year. All right. So, yeah, let me get my bearings here a little bit. Um, Anybody excited about these changes happening with CDC recommendations and masks and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. The problem with Baltimore, though, is it's like living in a house with very strict parents because it feels like all the other kids get to go outside and play and we're not allowed. It's like, nope, you're not allowed to go outside and play at all. But all the other kids are playing and having fun and living life. And it's like, nope, stay in the house or wear your mask. But I'm really excited to be able to share with you this morning just this idea of reinforcing what you've already been going through, which is having an anti-fragile faith. Having an anti-fragile faith. And what I wanted to focus on and come alongside you with this morning was the idea of having compassion as resistance to indifference. Having compassion as resistance to indifference. I remember as a kid, you remember growing up as a kid and you coming home from school, and that time coming home from school and getting home from school, it's your precursor to your adult life when you're coming home from work, right? So you got off the bus or you're walking home and you're doing your thing, and I grew up in South Florida, so it was enough to just get off the bus. It wasn't raining. You had to get through all the sand nets and all that stuff on the way to your house. But you know what it's like to come home from work, right? You just want to come home, you want to relax. You want to kick your shoes off. You want to get your favorite thing to drink. You want your show to be on, whatever the case may be. And that's middle school Charlie. He's excited about coming home from a hard day's work at school. But there were a lot of days I would come home from school. And I'd walk in the house all excited because I know Transformers is going to be on, Thundercats is going to be on. Hopefully my little brother and sister didn't eat my Lunchables, and that would be just awesome. And I remember walking in that house and opening up the door, and then there's this white lady sitting at my dinner table. This is kind of awkward. So you walk in, my mom's right here. Hey, Charlie, there's this strange lady at the table. So, hey, nice, because in the South, we're taught to be very cordial. You got to be hi, hello, all this kind of stuff. But all that to say, I'm going to go around the corner and ask my little brother or sister. You know what this is like, Zoom, right? You go around the corner, you ask your little brother, yo, who is this white lady that's in the house? I don't know. Mama just came home with her. Now, what's unique about this lady, and there were several of these ladies that would show up at our house, that she wouldn't look the best. She would be kind of disheveled. Hair would kind of be a little messed up. Clothes wouldn't be the most perfect. There was no car in the driveway. So that's what startled me, because I'm like, I ain't know there was a guest coming over. And this lady would be there. She was probably eating my Lunchables. Mama done gave the lady my Lunchables. I can't even relax in the crib like I want to relax. And so all that to say, it would be this awkward evening and I would get frustrated. And what my mom would be doing was she would be caring for a lady she met that afternoon at work. Now you got to kind of know my mom. She was a sweet little lady. She's with Jesus now, but she was the sweetest, most kindest. And I know everybody says that about their mom, but my mom really was like that. So much so that she would find these people at the park where she worked. And if she saw that they were in need, she would bring them to our house, give them our little bit of food, get them to a church or some kind of ministry to help them get on their feet. And it was not uncommon for me to come home to a house where there was a stranger receiving the care and compassion from my mom. Now, what's going on in my heart? You're interrupting Thundercats. My Lunchables has been eaten. My space is being violated because I can't do what I want to do. And this is a sense, there's a sense in which I don't care about your situation. I am more concerned about me, myself, and I. Even that was middle school Charlie. Hopefully, Pastor Charlie, adult Charlie, would be a little bit better. Well, I looked up the news yesterday in preparation for today. I saw the headlines. The Israel-Gaza crisis continues to escalate. Medieval elites use hand washing as a shrewd power play. Confused Americans like us grapple with CDC's new mask rules. Should I wear it? Shouldn't I wear it? Extinct fossil fish dating back 420 million years was found alive by a fisherman in Madagascar. 44 genius things on Amazon that fix annoying problems around your home. So I keep swiping. It's the news. I need to be informed. 4 dead in an explosion. Homicide is up more than 17%. Top Golf is going to break ground next to the casino. 10 things to do in Baltimore this weekend. You mean besides have an anxiety attack from this news? And what happened? That same feeling I had when I was that middle school kid whose Lunchables were being eaten by a strange woman. I don't care about that stuff. We just prayed for our neighbors. How much can I really care? I mean, I was going to the news to become well informed, but instead I feel more anxious. I can't care about all of that. I got a wife, I got 3 kids, I got things going on. You know, we're dealing with COVID and the pandemic. We got so much to think about ourselves. I can't be concerned about what's going on around us. Ruth Haley Barton, theologian, she said it like this: I no longer read to the end of the newspaper articles about the latest attack, nor do I rush home to see the coverage on TV. You know that feeling? Last year we went through a crisis, the entire world. But we're so tired and overwhelmed and overstimulated, it's nothing to us to hear about somebody else dying. What's the point of turning on the news? I know it's going to be more bad news. And she said it like this: I don't ask the question, where were you when? How many times have we gone through things that they say were global things in our lifetimes? Maybe it was September 11th. Where were you when? But we've gone through so many of those, it don't even matter anymore. She said, my heart has gone numb. And for many of us, our hearts are numb. There's not much I can feel for others. And what I found is the 24-hour flow of tragedy, violence, death, sex, frenzy, war, song, and dance. Anybody been on TikTok lately? It's the latest challenge. You got to be able to do the latest dance. The triviality, the trinkets that have not, all of that stimulation, it hasn't inflamed my heart. What has it done? It's made me feel the exact opposite. I'm so overstimulated that I'm to the point of numbness or indifference. Numbness is the inability to feel, and not only can we not feel, we've seen it all. There's no sense of awe. There's no sense of wow. There's no sense of grandeur. We've seen it all. We've done it all. There's no sense of anticipation. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. There's nothing, we're not shocked by anything. We're not appalled by anything. We just go through life. And sadly, it's only the really, really extreme that moves us. Something so visceral, something so mind-blowing. That's what it takes to move us. So all last year, with so many serious issues facing all of us, you know what I kept hearing from the church? Especially during the political season last year. You know what we kept hearing from the church and from church leaders and from bloggers and leaders and Christian leaders? We should empathize with one another. Isn't that what the story was last year? Man, we should have empathy. Black Lives Matter, have empathy. Racial reconciliation, have empathy. Violence against Asian folks, have empathy. What happened? It's hard to have empathy when I can't feel. Get in the other person's shoes. How? I can't feel for them if I can't feel at all. So we're an entire community, we're an entire city, we're an entire society, we're an entire culture that is numb. And what do we do when everyone is indifferent? What do we do then? How do we reclaim a sense of feeling and connection? And that's more dangerous than hate. That's more dangerous than violence. But it's more dangerous to not feel than to have a strong feeling. Nobel Peace Prize winner Elie Wiesel said it like this: the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it is indifference. It's I don't care. I don't see, I don't think about, you don't exist. So we're a society, a community that's indifferent. And we are in desperate need of those, hear me when I say this, we're in desperate need of those who will courageously resist indifference with compassion. We need the people that are willing to feel something, that'll risk feeling something, that'll take the chance to feel something. And that's why I love Jesus, because he felt the most. So check out Matthew chapter 9. So I'm gonna look at one particular verse in here, but I want us to kind of see. Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 to 38. Here's what it says. Austin read it very well for us. Jesus continued going around to all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every sickness. So he's doing his job. He's doing what the Messiah is supposed to do. The Messiah is supposed to come, heal the sick, love on some people, encourage them that the kingdom of heaven is near. He's about to change some things. So just like Sam Cooke, and just like for us, change is gonna come. The Messiah is here. Change should be coming. You know what I mean? The CDC said we don't gotta wear masks. Change is coming. Maybe not for us as soon as everybody else, but it's coming. So he's doing everything he can to show and represent who he is, right? So he's doing his job, going about his business, and he's doing it well. But here's what I love about Jesus. He's just not concerned about accomplishing what he was set to do. There's a way in which he does it. There's a way in which he carries himself. There's lenses with which he is using to carry out his role. What's that lens? He said, when he saw the crowds, he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dejected like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is abundant, but the workers are few. Therefore, pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers. So we see Jesus is going about doing his job. He's doing his role. He's living the life he was called to live. He's fulfilling his mission. And for many of us, we have a job to do. You're a parent. you're a spouse, you're an employee, you're a student, you have a job to do. And I would encourage you, do the job the best that you can possibly do it. Don't slack off. Don't try to milk the system. Don't do those things. Do it absolutely the very best that you can. But it's not just that you need to accomplish the job. There's a way in which we are called to do the job. There's something about the way in which we carry that role into other areas of life. There's some filters we should have on. And what I love about Jesus is Jesus didn't just want to do his job. He saw the people that were in his path. He could have just walked around. You know, we in the kids, the little video just now, it talked about how Jesus could literally roll around, let his little cape in the wind just touch people, and he would just be healing people, people being slain in the spirit. It could have been like a Benny Hinn conference, and Jesus just could have been walking around, people falling down, all kind of lightning strikes and stuff. It could have been great. I think that would have been awesome, but Jesus didn't roll like that. So here we got this situation. He sees the crowd. So he wasn't just grinding. He wasn't just trying to accomplish the job. He wasn't just doing his duty. He saw the crowd. To see means to not just to see them and have some sense of perception of their shape, or that there's people there or somewhere. There's people in Baltimore City. There's 630,000 people. There's all these people. Yes, we see and we know that there's people, but no, to see how Jesus was seeing was to stare and to discern clearly, to attend to experience. It was to take heed of the people. It was to notice. Jesus could clearly understand the circumstances and the needs of those that were coming towards him, whose presence he was in. And by contrast, indifference is the opposite. It's not thinking about, or it's not interested in something or someone. It's a lack of interest. But Jesus said, I don't just see them, I feel them. And I love that. Jesus was always seeing people. When you go throughout the Gospels, you see when he stepped ashore in Matthew 14:14. When he stepped ashore, he was tired, been doing ministry, doing great things, and he saw a large crowd, similar to what Charlie did when he walked into his house as a middle school kid and there's a stranger there. This is my time to rest. This is my delegated time. Jesus didn't do that. He had compassion on them and healed their sick. So when Jesus was deserving of rest, he still had compassion. Going further, Matthew 15:32, then Jesus called his disciples and said, I have compassion for this crowd because they've already been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, or they may faint along the way. He's done his job. I healed you. What more you ask for? I know if you're on Zoom and you're at home right now and you got your kids right there, it's like, listen, for our kids, especially as a young parent, I got my 3, 10, 8, and 6-year-old. It's like, what more do you want from me? That conversation has come up many a times over the last year. Listen, I got snacks in here, I got water, you got a roof over your head. What more do you want from me? Now I have to become an entertainer as well? Like, I can't do that too. But Jesus didn't get frustrated like I get frustrated. He says, man, I see that they've been with me 3 days. Man, they're not gonna make it home. What else can I do to serve them? So when you go and I go about our days, who do you see? Who do you see? Do you see anyone? Are our eyes open to those that are around us? I know you maybe had that experience where you go to work or to school or go home, and it's like you just magically appear back at home. It's not like you've been drinking or anything. I hope not. But it's like, man, you left one place and got to another place and you don't even remember how you got there. And so many of us, we can go through life like that and not see any of the people around us. And the question for us is, are our eyes open? Who do you see? Because the first step to reclaiming a sense of compassion, a sense of feeling for somebody else, you can't empathize with anybody if you don't see them. I can tell you the story, I can give you the stats, I can make a case, we can do all of that. But if you don't see the people, shoot, I've been raising money for a long time trying to plant this church. You know what one of the most effective things to do is? Show a picture. Because if I leave Baltimore and go to South Florida and try to raise some money, they can't picture what it's like. But when I give them a pic, so I need you to see. I need you to see. There's an illustration of this that we probably go through all the time. You probably don't realize it. Have you ever seen the nod? Ever seen the nod? I know some black guys, we got the nod. If you were walking with a black guy, something like that one day, African-American dude, he might walk down the street and then they give the head nod. One of those. You know what I mean? And it's a subtle thing. It's not a big thing. It's a nod. And what's the nod? The nod is the acknowledgement. I see you. The nod is, I see you. And it's not just a black thing. You ever seen the people that ride around on motorcycles? And they do a big nod. Driving on the motorcycle. It could be a ninja thing and a Harley thing, and it's like, I see you. It's the guys in the Jeep. Bump, bump. I see you. It's the bus drivers. They've got the nod, or they acknowledge one another. And so for us, we want to be those who see others. Why? Why do we need to see others? And I need you to catch this. I don't want to just see others because you feel a sense of guilt about others around you. I want you to see others because you have been seen. That's what's so beautiful about this is the fact that I've been seen. Who has seen me? It has been Christ who has seen me. It's Christ. If you're a Christian, if you're a disciple of Jesus, you have been seen. And what does he say? Matthew 10:29, where he's reassuring his disciples, what did he say? Aren't 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet one of them falls to the ground without your father's consent. Yet not one of them falls to the ground without your father's consent. But even the hairs, I ain't got too many left, but even the hairs on your head have all been counted. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. So the reason I can see others is not because I'm guilty or I'm sad. It's because I've been seen. And I know the joy of what it's like to have somebody nod at me and go, I see you, Charlie. Right? So we subvert indifference by seeing. Secondly, what happens? Jesus feels for the people. He feels for them. The text tells us he felt compassion. It literally means that his bowels were moving. He got knots in his stomach. He was uneased. He was grieved from the pit of his stomach at the condition of the people. They were like sheep who had been flayed by wolves and in distress, meaning they gotten stuck and they couldn't help themselves. Have you seen that new little Instagram video of the little sheep that got stuck? You gotta look it up. It's pretty great, because if this is us, we're doing bad. Sheep stuck in a little crevice in the ground. God comes along, pulls the sheep out of the crevice. Sheep, happy, joyful, runs over, jumps right back in the ditch. So Jesus is so great. So if that's us, he sees that condition. He sees that even though we dress well, that we really are in need. He sees that we wear these masks and we're getting tired of wearing the mask. And I'm not talking about this mask, I'm talking about the one we try to show off to people. He sees all of these things. He sees that you're not quite carrying it as well as you were. He sees that the smile ain't quite as genuine. He sees the condition and he feels for them. They were in a complete and total mess and needed somebody to help them. So if we transport that vision from Palestine in the first century to Baltimore in 2020, when you look around, and I mean really open up your eyes to look, what happens to your stomach? None of us should be able to walk around our city in ease. It should make us uncomfortable because of the dysfunction and dis-ease of the people. Why? Because Jesus, he saw the conditions of them and said, I have to do something. In other words, does it move from your head in intellectual understanding to your heart? Because once it goes to the heart, it has to go to the hands. That's what compassion is. Compassion isn't just this soft, sensitive feeling. That's just genuine love. But this is love in action. This is love that says, I can't just leave you in this condition. I have to do something. Because I'm hurting, I want to alleviate your hurting because I saw your hurt. Darren Patrick, he said it like this: when we look, not glance, but look, we see the person, not the problem. Do we only see problems and not people? In Baltimore, it's easy to see the problems. They're like massive billboards called problems a lot of times. But do you see the people? It says, when we look at the person, we see that he or she matters to God and they ought to matter to us. When we look, we see a person to be loved and not a problem to be handled. Only when we look can we experience compassion. To open up your eyes is to risk your life in living with a broken heart for the sake of the lost. What is the resistance to compassion? It is my own personal comfort, because it's risky to be a compassionate person. I'm putting my heart on the line. I don't want to walk around with a broken heart. But true compassion means I wear my heart on my sleeve because it can be gripped by someone I make eye contact with. It's a risky life to be a compassionate person. And what is that? That's anti-fragile. Because I need the resilience to be able to love those who seem unlovable to other people. What happened? When I was that middle school kid walking into my house, seeing a strange lady at my dinner table eating my Lunchables, I was being overly sensitive. But when I stood in the living room and began to take notice, because in my position, what happens? This lady, why she gotta eat my lunch? Why she gotta eat my snacks? It's me. I deserve, after a hard day's work of middle school, I need my snack. That's sensitive, that's fragile. But as I began to notice some things about her, I think she needs this lunch more than I do. What I failed to tell you is what would happen is my mom, she worked at the local park in the neighborhood. She would open it up, close it, change the trash cans. She was like the little neighborhood park person, I don't know. Rode around, it was cool for me because she rode around on the 6-wheel John Deere thing, you know what I mean? And so I could ride with her on that thing. But all that to say, she would ride around the neighborhood and she would see these women standing, sitting, meandering, with no place to go, nobody, and she would ask, hey, how you doing, you okay? And what would typically happen is if she saw a woman like this, here's typically what would happen. This woman came to the neighborhood to buy drugs. She probably didn't have any money for drugs. And so drug dealers, my friends would negotiate, okay, either I could take your body or I could take your car. And this woman would give up her car so that they could ride around, joyride, do whatever they wanted to do. And then they would promise to pay her in drugs later. What would typically happen is they would take the car out back, strip the car, she'd never get the car back, and she would just be stranded there. And you can't go to the police, why? Because you were there trying to pick up some, and my mom would be the one that would come along, see the situation, come on, I'm finishing up work, here's my lunch, come on home with me, let's get you situated. And I always wondered, how is it that you could do that? It's because she remembered that she needed that kind of love, care, and compassion at one time in her life. So Jesus' motivation was not to accomplish his job. My mom could have easily said, I'm here to do my job and go home. Her motivation was not to do her job. Her motivation was, I've been strategically placed here to see those who might need my kind of love and compassion. So wherever you've been placed, God may be strategically placing you there to see the people in that particular place so that you may be the one to show a little love and compassion rather than indifference. His motivation to serve is compassion. But for many of us, indifference has turned our heart inward. It's risky, it's hard, it's costly, it's burdensome, it's tiresome. I get it. But that typically means that we've adopted an American gospel which says I have to look out for number one. I've got to protect myself at all costs. Indifference is a self-preservation technique in a world filled with infinite needs. If I give myself to these issues, I will lose myself. There will be nothing left for me. But as I'm gripped with the vision of who Jesus is and what he's done for me, not for you, what he's done for me, what grips him must also grip me. I want the same motivation. I want the same drive. I want the same love that he had. What did Jesus tell us? A new commandment I give you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. John goes on to write in 1 John, by this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers. Jesus modeled self-sacrificial love, and we are to live self-sacrificial lives on behalf of others. So I'll say it like this because there's a bit of a shift here. Who deserves our compassion? Because I know when I bring up compassion, those that are typically weaker than us are the ones that we think of that give our compassion. I'm the stronger one, they're the weaker one. I will show them compassion. I'm the more wealthy one, they're the poorer one. I will show them compassion. But compassion is not merely reserved for the poorer than us, but anyone we encounter in our path, right? And for example, you go over to Mark chapter 10, verse 17, and it tells a story of a rich young ruler. And what did Jesus do? I love what it says in verse 21. If you know the story about the rich young ruler, this rich young ruler, that's how it's described, rose up to Jesus. What must I do to inherit eternal life? All right, follow the law and the commands. Jesus tells him, and he's like, all right, I've already done that. And then Jesus tells him one more thing. Hey, listen, I want you to sell all your possessions, give them to the poor. Then you'll have treasure in heaven. And the man walks away sad. But I love it. Verse 21 tells you, looking at him, there's that, what's that? Seeing. Jesus loved him. One translation says, has compassion, and said to him, you lack one thing. Go sell all you have and give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. So Jesus, being the working class, traveling teacher, who has no place to lay his head, is telling the wealthier one, younger one, more beautiful one, more prestigious one, he has compassion on him too. Now this is where the rubber meets the road. Can you have compassion on someone you perceive to be wealthier than you? Can you have compassion for someone of another race or religion than you? Can you have compassion on those who have sworn to be your mortal enemies? All of those are people who deserve our compassion. So let Jesus tell it. We're supposed to have compassion on everybody. Like, I thought it was just for the poor guy. I thought it was just for the homeless man. No, it's for the ones at work. It's for your spouse. It's for your child. It's for your if you're a child, what if you had compassion on your parents? What if it's compassion on my neighbors, my roommates, those I get on the bus with, I commute with, my coworkers, my classmates? It's compassion for the barista. It's compassion for the Uber driver, the vaccinated, the anti-vaxxer. It's compassion for the Republican. It's compassion for the Democrat. It's compassion for whoever God places in my path. If I see them, I'm supposed to have compassion for them. And the worst thing we could possibly do is allow the Bible to be the reason why we're indifferent. How can I say that? Because some of us will say, well, Jesus said, the poor will always be with us. So there's not really much we need to do. This is just how it is. We don't need to go out of our way to be compassionate to them. Or one I've heard several times, Charlie, I read When Helping Hurts. And charity and giving things prevents people from getting up and building their lives themselves. It is just going to create this codependent relationship. So you know what? We shouldn't do the giveaways and the backpacks and the thing. We should just do something else. And I love what Francis Schaeffer said in response to that. Biblical orthodoxy without compassion is surely the ugliest thing in the world. You're using the Bible. You're using logic to say that, man, the God that we serve, the one who sacrificed himself on the cross, we shouldn't go out of our way to be compassionate. No. That's the ugliest thing we could do. The best thing that we could do is give our lives in response to those who are within our path. So I'm not telling you to save everybody. So don't hear me saying that. White people, don't hear me giving you white guilt. Because I don't even want it to be motivated out of guilt. I feel so bad. There was 400 years of slavery. And oh my gosh, what can I do to help the black people? That's fine, cool. I'll take the help, but I wanted to be motivated from a place of God has been compassionate for me. And my response to the love of Christ is to love my brothers and sisters, whoever they may be. So here's my final thoughts. Allow yourself to see. Open yourself up to seeing. Ask God to give you the eyes to see. Living in a city like Baltimore requires you to develop awareness. Got to always keep your eyes open, head on the swivel. My kids yesterday, my son fell off his skateboard, landed in the driveway of somebody down the street, and doing what he does in his dramatic fashion, laid on the ground, waiting for someone to come along and rescue him. And my wife happened to step outside and see that a pickup truck was backing into that driveway. So we had to have a long conversation after he was picked up off the driveway. You got to develop some awareness. And for us, develop awareness to see other people. We avoid eye contact. But let's be the people that say, I see you. Hey, bro, hey, I see you. Sometimes that's all people need is to know that they've been seen. Compassion slows down enough to see people, their plight, and their potential. Compassion is activated by memory. You get compassion when you remember that God was compassionate to you. And you must remember that you aren't who you are because you are so great and you made it. You must remember that you are who you are by the grace of Almighty God. So that's what motivates and propels us. And lastly, don't get overwhelmed. Don't get overwhelmed. Just get over yourself. Don't get overwhelmed. Just get over yourself. You can't do everything. You can't fix the whole city. You can't fix your kids. You can't do it. We can't do it. I'm just going to tell you. Zoom, you can't do it. Live, we can't do it. We can't even tell Brandon, like, listen, can we wear a mask? No. Okay, well, all right, well, I guess we can't do it. We can't do everything, but you can do something. Often we look at ourselves and we see our own limitations. Compassion ain't about what you got. It's about what motivates you. I love what Peter said to the beggar on the side of the road. Hey, I don't have much, but what I have, I give. My mama didn't even have a lunch. She gave my Lunchable. Are you willing to give what you have? It's your time. It's your talent. It's your treasure. It's your advocacy. It's your protection. It's your truth telling. Whatever you have to give out of your compassion. And if you can't do for all, do for one. What you would love to do for all, do for one. Show compassion. What would it look like for each and every one of us to not be indifferent, but just to show a little bit of compassion to somebody that came across our path? That's our prayer for us. Jesus, I'm asking you, Father, that you would give us eyes to see. We've been formed and shaped by the city so much that we don't see people. We've trained ourselves to avoid eye contact, to wait till we get to our own designated places and spaces to see just those around us. But I pray, God, that you would help us to have eyes to see. You saw the crowds and you felt compassion for them, for those who have lost their sense of connection to others. We've been behind screens on Zoom. We've been socially distanced. We've been far from one another. But God, we still have the capacity to feel for those. Help us, oh God, inflame that sense of affection, not just for you, but that affection that flows from you, help it to flow out into others. Father, I pray that you would help us to not be an indifferent people, but a compassionate people. People known as those, they saw me, they felt me, they loved me, and they cared for me. May that be our testimony in our day. In Jesus' name, amen.